Hello viewers, Super GT here. Welcome back to another kart racing video. Now last time out in the kart racing videos we were at Rye House in extremely wet conditions. Now we're still at the Rye House circuit, but this is a couple of sprint races for you, so a lot shorter races. And the conditions are very much different. So there's no rain, but you can still see that there is a certain amount of water left on the track. And it was changing throughout the day. It was recorded during the Hockenheim Grand Prix race day. It was on the same day as that. And in the same sort of vein as that Grand Prix, the conditions were changing throughout the day. So that is something to watch out for throughout this video. Now I turned that clip off there to start a new clip, so that it was easier to edit, but I didn't actually start the new clip, annoyingly. So I didn't record my first race, but it is recorded here. So that's me, number 86, that's the kart you're looking out for as we go through turn 1. So this is recorded by Alpha Live. They do live streams, as you can probably tell by their name. So they cover these events. They have a load of cameras dotted around the circuit, and they have a commentary team who do a very good job. To be honest, as that guy goes spinning around, does a nice little, almost a 360 into the first hairpin. So they do a really good job of covering these events, and definitely go and check them out. I'll link them in the description, as they cover a lot of kart racing throughout the UK and other places, so they're worth having a look. So at this point here, I started 19th on the grid as another guy gets sent to the Shadow Realm. So they're both out. Well, they're not out, they can continue, but they're out of the running realistically. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. I'm in about 7th place at this point here, as we can see by the leaderboard on the left hand side of the screen. Started 19th up to 7th, really just taking advantage of the bashing that goes on lap 1 that you always get, and then a lot of people spinning out as well, and just making sure that you keep it clean and away from trouble, and you can normally make up quite a lot of positions. So plus 12 so far, 4 seconds off the leader. And the main thing about this wet weather racing is just really searching for the grip. It's very, very difficult indeed, as well, it's just this weird sort of invisible force that you're trying to look for, but you can't always see. So side by side here with Matt Hale, and I tried to turn in from the outside. There's just no grip there, so I lose that position to him. And Richard Allen goes around the outside, and then it's a straight up drag race down the main straight. So for those wondering why we've got different coloured number plates, so the yellow means class 1, blue class 2, and then the guy behind me there with the green is super heavyweight, so he's in a slightly different category. There's that kart going very slowly into the hairpin, gain another position. So there's lots of different classes within the same race. Everyone's in the same karts, but slightly different categories. As we go into hairpin 2, side by side, you can see they're leaning into the kart and just running him out wide. Very, very on the edge racing as we come into the pylon corner there, and then sweep into the right hander just afterwards. So lots of questions in the previous video regarding why don't you use wet weather tyres. In hire karting you never do that, because there's a fleet of about 40 karts. It would take 2 mechanics ages to change that many tyres. And look how close this is, as I just get settling behind Matt Hale, millimetres from spinning him out. But those millimetres count, and luckily on this occasion we don't get that done. And then we do get the move done though into the hairpin just afterwards. So he went a little bit too wide coming out turn 1. I took a slightly more incisive line, which gave me a better drive throughout the left-hander just following it. A little bit further on into the race now. So it's about 8 minutes. It's not really a predetermined amount of laps. It's just whenever you cross the finish line, after the timer goes down, then the race is over. And on this occasion, you see the gap was about 4 seconds from me to the lead, about 1.5 to the guy in front. Now certainly caught up with number 26 now. Number 86 I am there. So trying to find a way past into turn 1. And it's not quite on. So again, looking for that grip. I'm going to move to the right hand side there. You can't quite see that maybe, but moving to the right gives me a better run on the way out. And that is one of the big secrets of racing in the rain. You gain a lot of time by taking the wider line on the way in and then getting a better drive on the way out. That's where you really gain a lot of time in wet weather racing, especially when you're driving on slick tyres. It is really different compared to racing with actual full-blown wet tyres. So yes, again, back to that question, wet tyres, they do exist in kart racing. It's just in higher karting. It's not really plausible to change all the tyres on 40 karts at a moment's notice. Now, a nice question here. Is Steve Brown Moses? Well, good question, Readinator. Thank you very much for bringing that one in. Turns out that might be the case. There might be some truth to that. Coming through into turn 1, final lap. That's the move for the lead. And the lines were getting better and better throughout this race. And the problem sometimes being in the lead, Craig Brown there was in the lead for the whole race. Sometimes being in the lead is actually a disadvantage in the rain because you can't quite see the lines. When you're following people, you can see what they're doing wrong and you can adapt your line. When you're at the front, you've got no references. You've got no one else to compare yourself to. So it can be tricky actually being in the lead in the rain conditions or the mixed conditions. So on this occasion, we've gone through from 19th to first. Really big shame it didn't record. Gonna have to really make sure that doesn't happen again. Because that has actually happened a few times and it's actually really frustrating. But coming through at the end of this first race to finish in the lead. Now I do have recordings of the next 2 races, thankfully. So I wasn't stupid enough to make the same mistake again. So that's race number 1 done. We move on then to heat number 2, or heat number 6 officially, but it's my second heat. It's back in the pit lane and we move away from the grid. So this time starting in 9th. It's actually rained again. So it dried out a little bit, but then the rain came back. But look at those insane tyre warming skills. My tyres are probably warmer than the sun. So this has actually rained a little bit more. You can't quite... It's not raining right now, you can't see that. But the track has got a little bit wetter compared to that last race. So I'm kind of going in here. Not knowing exactly how the track is performing, where the grip is, so you have to work it all out, and that's the difficult thing about these conditions, working out exactly where that grip is. So trying to follow Bobby Trundley through here. So I started grid 9, immediately up to 5th, just by really hooking up a nice inside line, and that's kind of all I did on the previous race. Starting 19th, got up to about 14th or so after the first corner, just by really hooking up the inside and just letting people drift really wide. So up into 5th place immediately. So a good start. We've got Costa, the Greek god of speed, who's made appearances before. He's on pole position. He started at the front. He's at the front of the pack in the red overalls at the very front of this group. So we're going to try our best to try to get through as quickly as possible. But we've got some really good drivers here. We've got Bobby Trundley, a very well-known D-Max driver who's actually very, very quick indeed. Adam Wright just ahead. We've got Costa, of course, in the lead. So it's not going to be easy against guys like this. Very, very difficult indeed. Into turn 1, can we look for the move here? Looking at the inside, the grip wasn't quite there to really go for that move without contact, so you have to kind of sit in, be patient and wait for the situation to come to you, because sometimes you can force the issue a little bit too much. Bobby trying to get the inside, gets the job done. I'm going to try to cut back on them as they kind of both slowed each other down there. Thinking about going 3 abreast, not a good idea. I back out and try to go for this different line here. You see how much grip I get by going deep and then cutting back. Not quite going to be enough though, as the guy ahead just managed to keep in front. He goes in way too narrow here though. You see this again, deep line, cut back, get the power, and I get such better acceleration by taking that line, as he went in way too narrow into that turn and lost it all on the way out. So we gain a position there. Go back onto the main straight. It's the end of lap number 2, right on the tail of Bobby again. Move to the right hand side. We're going to go up the inside, and there is actually a grip here on the inside. Normally the wet lines dictate that you go around the outside, but we're getting the move done there on the pair of them. Bobby almost comes back at me on the exit of the corner, but we go from 4th to 2nd in one corner, into the hairpin, cover up the inside, back to the right hand side. It felt as though going into the hairpin there, the braking point, the worst of the water was on the far right hand side of the track, so I just moved to the left hand side a little bit just to avoid it. But that was a good couple of corners. This is later on in the race, so it's really just a case of trying to catch up with Costa. He got such a good gap early on in the race, and that's the thing you've got to do from pole position. Just really get away as quickly as possible while everyone else behind you is fighting. And just create that gap nice and early, and then give yourself lots of room to play with. Did get that gap down. Some laps he was matching me, some laps I was a little bit quicker. There are only 8 laps. It's a short sprint race, so you don't have much time to get the job done. But this is the final lap, so we're definitely catching up. But we are certainly running out of time. This is pretty much halfway through the final lap, or more than halfway through the final lap now. It's going to be very difficult for me to catch up. So coming into the pylon corner here, with about 3 corners left to go, it's not going to be a first place here, it's going to be a second. So we had a first place in the first race, second place is going to be here, and in the final race we're going to be starting 4th. So for those wondering about the grid slots, you have 3 races, and then they average out your grid. So you have one roughly at the front, one roughly in the middle, one roughly at the back, but your average will add up to the same as everyone else, so it is fair predominantly, or mostly. Sometimes you might get unlucky with an outside grid slot compared to an inside for other people, but over the course of a season it will balance out roughly. And we just come into the pit lane to end the race. So again, another question answered here is that you know, some people say, oh, you look really light, therefore that's why you're going quicker, but it is a weighted series. You have to carry a certain amount of weight, and in this occasion it's above 90 kilograms, including a load of lead, including all your gear, and with the wetsuit and all the water that it's holding as well. So this is the final race of this video. We had a first, we've had a second, and then in the next video we'll see the finals. These are just the heats. Again, insane tyre warming skills as we get those tyres up to temperature. So the final race here, you see the track is much drier, so it's sort of a different shade of grey. A much lighter shade, which means drier. And through turn 1, starting 4th this time, so second row, left hand side, the guy who started next to me just goes through the most savage lunge out of nowhere and just wipes out the front row. And I immediately go up into the lead, but they called a full start on it. So the stewards can call a full start, they can just say, no, that start wasn't correct, you did it all wrong. Basically, do it again, please. So, kind of annoying when that happens, especially when you get a really good start and then you have to try and do it again. But we'll see if that can happen here. So, I think the main thing is that they want us to approach the start line really slowly. So coming through the final corner here, we've got the pace car at the very front, he's telling us to slow right down. And then as we come up to the line, the grey gantry at the top of the screen. So it's nice and slow. And then begin to accelerate very close to the line, and away we go to begin the race. Can we have the same amount of luck as we had on the previous occasion, trying to look for the inside line, being passed around the outside, but then again the same guy goes for this same move into the first corner, and I just undercut the lot of them and go back into the lead once again. So it seems that guy didn't really learn his lesson from the first start, because he went for a move that wasn't really on, he just did exactly the same thing again, and it really worked for me. So you see the amount of grip here is a lot different compared to the last race. The grip is so much higher now, so you really fling the car in and it just responds to what you actually want it to do. Whereas of course in the rain it just takes forever to turn in, there's so much understeer. So that's the end of lap number 1. Having a quick check behind just to see exactly where they are. We just have to go again, kind of as I said in the previous race, you kind of just have to get your head down, try and create as much of a gap as early as you can whilst the people behind are fighting. And this really actually gives me a good opportunity to answer again the wet tyre question, which I got asked so many times. On occasions like this is a perfect occasion, because if you start having wet tyres in this kind of track, the wet tyres are just going to get destroyed, and they cost a lot of money. So the cost of the event is just going to go up. The time of the event is going to go up, because they have to change 40 sets of tyres, and they change them back again when it dries out, and then when it rains again they have to try and change them back. So the time would just take forever, and the costs would go up, and wet weather tyres are not cheap at all. They're very expensive in fact. So that's the main two reasons, time and cost. A bit later in the race, we come up to lap 6. This is going to be my fastest lap of the race. So let's take a look at it. At this point I'm about 4 seconds ahead of second place, as there was quite a lot of fighting. So Stadium Corner, really good corner, tightens up at the end, but you can still carry loads of speed through it. Kink to the left, then into the hairpin, just moving to the left hand side there on the braking zone. You can see there are lots of puddles on the right, so just avoiding that. Opening up the exit of the corner, depending on where the tyre wall is. If there's no tyre wall, you can just open up a little bit more. And again here, using the bricks on the left hand side. Coming into the pylon corner, name that because of course there's a massive pylon there. Sweep it in, and then clipping up the apex on the right hander nicely. Using the curb here, late apex, and then swing it into the right hand of the final corner. Can't go beyond the curb there. And then that is one lap of Rye House. That was our fastest lap of the race, 43.3 I think it was. I need to have a look at that. I will have a link to all the results in the description below. So that was the end of the race. We're going to move to lap number 8 of 8, or the final lap of the race, and we're going to bring it home for another victory. So in 3 heats, first, second and first. That's going to put me on pole position for the heavyweight final, which will be in the next video, and then we have the super final as well, also in the next video. So that's it from this one. I do hope you enjoyed it as always. Of course, if you have any more questions, please do let me know. Lots of questions do come in about these karting events, so that's why I'm trying to answer as many as I can. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts as always. And well, just thank you again for the support on these videos. Thank you for the support on the channel as always. These videos have actually been doing really well. The karting videos have been very popular, so I'm glad that you guys are enjoying them. But that is all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Can we have your fuel caps off, please, drivers? Fuel caps off, if you wouldn't mind, please. Take your fuel caps off. And can I see Steve Brown, Bobby Trundley and Matthew Hale on the scales, please? Steve Brown, Bobby Trundley and Matthew Hale on the scales, please. Take your fuel caps off, please, guys. Grab all your bits and pieces.